Rock!
What's up, everybody? Just out here riding around, day off, going for a ride, running a couple errands. Went and got lunch at a local burger place, P. Terry's. So good. They have those kind of thin, natural cut fries, just awesome. And went by the roller derby shop to pick up a sticker to cover an ugly warning sticker on my bike. One of the local roller girls owns the shop, so, you know, being a ref in the roller derby league, I figured I could represent and cover that ugly warning sticker, both, you know, kill two birds in one stone. So I did a vlog on my birthday out on my dirt bike about my wife and I when we got together, and I had mentioned about having cancer at one point in my life, and several people said, hey, you know, you got to do that vlog and tell us about the cancer. So I figured, well, may as well get that out of the way. And it's not that I'm uncomfortable talking about it, it's just I feel a little weird talking about it because I know for a lot of people it's a pretty uncomfortable subject, and I know a lot of people have lost loved ones and really suffered because of it, and honestly my experience with it wasn't that bad. At least my first-hand experience with it wasn't that bad. So basically the story goes, 20 miles an hour when flashing. Why am I the only one doing the speed limit in the school zone? Well, whatever. So I woke up one day. I was working doing tech support for Verizon DSL at the time, which sounds like a crappy job, but it was actually really a lot of fun. Mainly because we screwed around a lot, and the job was pretty... I worked with a lot of friends, and it was still during the 90s .com thing, so it was a pretty lax attitude by the managing staff, which is rare for a call center. But, so I was working there, and the one day I woke up, and I noticed kind of an uncomfortable feeling in my genital area. Basically, well, you know what? I guess there's no point in skirting around words here. Basically, my left testicle was. It didn't hurt, but it was uncomfortable. I didn't think a whole lot of it. I was just like, well, whatever. That's weird, and I, you know, ignored it. Next day at work, it straight up kind of hurt. It didn't like ache like I got kicked, but it was just, it felt kind of tight, and it was a little more sensitive, and to the point where I sat in my chair with my knees kind of apart. I wake up in bed, and my wife wakes up at the same time, and like, she flops her pillow over onto me, and it just barely lands between my legs, and I'm like, ow, ow, ow. She's like, what's wrong? I'm like, well, my one ball hurts. You know, it's kind of weird. And she kind of gets freaked out about it, and I'm like, well, it kind of hurts, and it's a little, it feels bigger than the other one, and this freaks her out bad. She goes and gets on like WebMD or something, and she comes back and she's like, does it feel hard? I'm like, yeah, it feels kind of hard. She's like, oh my god. She's like, you need to call the doctor right away. I'm like, it's Sunday, he's not going to be there. She's like, call the doctor right away. So I'm like, whatever, I don't think much of anything's wrong, but I called the doctor, and the doctor, who generally isn't there on a Sunday, the nurse calls me back, and she's like, oh, it's probably nothing, but let's get you in Monday to check it out anyway. I'm like, okay. So I go to the doctor on Monday after work, And again, it hurts a little more. It's not like way, way worse, but it's exponentially a little bit worse each day. And now remember, it started hurting like Tuesday or Wednesday of the week before this. And it's now Monday. I go see the doctor examines it, and, you know, it's kind of a weird situation having it, like, you know, 65-year-old man fondling your junk wearing rubber gloves. I guess for some people it's not that abnormal. For me at this point, it's not that abnormal anymore. And he's like, well, and he has kind of a weird look on his face. He's like, it's probably nothing, but let's get you to see a urologist anyway. I'm like, okay. I don't think much of it. I have an appointment, and he makes me an appointment, and the appointment's for Tuesday, immediately after work. Which seems kind of sudden to me, but whatever. I'm like, I couldn't believe that he got me an appointment for less than 24 hours later at a urologist. I guess in retrospect, it shows that he was pretty alarmed by what he was seeing, and he was just trying to keep me calm by playing it down some. So I go see the urologist. Urologist examines me, immediately sends me upstairs for an ultrasound. And it's like, now it's like 7:30 on Tuesday night. I go upstairs in the hospital for the ultrasound. I come back downstairs, and it strikes me as odd that a doctor is even seeing me this late at night, in the evening, but I don't think much of it. Again, in retrospect, it's probably because they really didn't like what they were seeing, and didn't want to mess around about, you know, reacting quickly to the situation. So, again, I'm like, whatever, and I go upstairs, I get the ultrasound, which, if you've ever had an ultrasound, they have this jelly. You know about the jelly they smear on whatever they're going to ultrasound. Well, imagine them pouring that cold jelly out of the bottle onto your junk. It was really pretty unpleasant. Plus, I have this whole thing about being sticky or slimy. It really creeps me out. So now I'm sticky and slimy in the absolute last place that you really want to be sticky and slimy. So it's just an altogether unpleasant experience. Plus, they're rubbing the ultrasound wand around on my, swollen and sore testicle, which doesn't feel great. But, so that's over. I towel off, take what's left of my pride, get dressed, and go back downstairs to the doctor's office. The doctor's office is dark, except for his office. I don't see him, so I go home. And I'm flat-ass broke, living in Somerville, Massachusetts, which is right outside Boston. And, I go home. I don't think much of it. I'm like, well, I guess he's not there. I'll find out tomorrow. I get a phone call on my home phone. Again, I didn't have a cell phone because this was before everybody had cell phones. A lot of people had them. I didn't have one yet because I was broke. I get a phone call from him, and I ask him, he's like, where are you? I'm like, thinking to myself, well, you called me at home, so where do you think I am? So I'm like, I'm at home. He goes, what the? He goes, and then, now, this is a doctor, okay? A medical professional. His exact words to me were, get the fuck back here now. And that's when it kind of hit me. I was like, a doctor just said the words, get the fuck back here now. And then he goes, bring your wife. Who wasn't my wife at the time, she was still just my girlfriend, but for all intents and purposes, let's say wife. I'm like, oh shit. So, okay. My wife and I hop in the car, we go back down to the hospital. Doctor sits us both down and says, we don't exactly know what it is yet, but we're calling it cancer. I feel safe to say it is definitely a tumor in your testicle, and I feel safe enough to call it cancer, but we won't know for sure until we do a biopsy on it tomorrow, be here at, I think, 7 a.m. Don't eat anything tonight when you go home after midnight, because you're going in for surgery tomorrow morning or removing your testicle. So, guys, if you're thinking to yourself, what? That was pretty much my reaction when he said, don't eat anything after midnight, be back here for surgery tomorrow morning at 7, I think it was 7:30 a.m., and we're removing your testicle. I was like, well, what? You're whatting my what? Are you insane? But I'm very, I don't know, I'm kind of clinical about this kind of stuff. I don't really know if I was back then, but I am now. And I was just like, well, I guess this is my path on life now. Which sucked, but, you know, it's one of those it is what it is situations. I'm going to go down here and show you guys this little water crossing. I don't know how much water it'll have right now, but I think it'll be a neat thing to check out in the video. So, I go home, and I'm still very, like, it hasn't really sunk in yet. I go home, I call my mother, she's in Pennsylvania, I live in Boston. She's not there, and I leave her a message, and I basically say, yeah, so I went to the doctor, and tomorrow morning I go in for surgery, and my left nut is coming out. And I hang up. And that was the entirety of the message I left my mother. Wow! Oh my god, is it dry here. Wow. Unreal. I wonder how slippery this is. Wow, this is just sad. So anyway, I'm like freaking out, because I'm like, you know, I'm both freaking out and not freaking out, because on one hand I'm like, this really sucks. On the other hand, I'm just like, well, this is my path in life right now. Hey, look at that. It's a plover, I believe is what kind of bird that is. So, again, I'm sort of freaking out, but all kinds of little fishies in there. Oh, that's sad. All those fish are going to die if it doesn't rain. Being an animal guy, it kind of bums me out. So, I go in the next morning. I have my surgery. There was a snafu with my insurance. A couple, let's say, loud conversations between myself and the insurance company. Straighten those problems out. And I have the surgery. He removes my testicle. I wake up in the hospital bed, back in my room, and I'm like, man, I'm really thirsty. And oh, look at that snake. I saw you, buddy. There's a catfish in that puddle. That sucks. Again, he's gonna die. And the drop kind of just bums me out. So, you know, they tell you not to drink anything when you wake up from anesthesia. And I had many surgeries because I have a habit of breaking myself. And, you know, of course I know better than the doctor, so I get him to bring me some water, and the doctor's like, whatever, man, it's your funeral. And I drink several glasses of water. 20 minutes later, the doctor comes in, and I'm hugging a garbage can in my hospital bed, and I'm just a nice shade of seafoam green as I'm puking my guts out. He walks in the room, looks at me, and goes, and walks back out of the room. Thanks a lot, Doc. So he comes back like an hour and a half later and says, yes, we've done biopsy, it's cancer. we probably got the whole tumor out because we removed your testicle. But you know, we're going to set you up for a consultation with one of the specialists, the oncologists at Dana-Farber, which is a cancer hospital in Boston. Where'd that snake go? So that was Wednesday. Now, if you remember, Wednesday of the week before was when my testicles started hurting. So it's 7 days later, and I went from my testicle hurts a little bit to my testicle's been removed, and I am now being told I have cancer. So needless to say, that was a pretty heavy thing to hear. I certainly wasn't very stoked, as you can imagine.